Good morning, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Sarita. Happy Friday. We have gotten through another week. This is amazing. And I have a great little candle for you today. This is from Bath & Body Works, and it is Raspberry Rosé. Look at this baby right here. I mean, a very kind of ho-hum package, a very obvious wraparound, little on the childish side. Frankly, it kind of looks phoned in, but this little collection that looked like it was for the children, for the 5-year-olds, maybe the 5-year-olds and all of us, has been really hitting harder than was anticipated and really outperforming the more sophisticated packaging of the line that came out with it, with the Mediterranean stucco designs and the rattan white lids that were just stunning, with the vanilla and Palo Santo in it. This little series is significantly outperforming that one, not only in terms of strength and throw, but also just in terms of beauty and sophistication of fragrances, which is so odd given the packaging, right? So Raspberry Rosé, this was a big surprise for me. These are not the kinds of candles that I usually bring home. If you watch my channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I don't do gourmands. I tend to steer away from the uber sweet candles, definitely the effervescent zesty ones. And I recognize that that's the majority of what Bath & Body Works does or has done historically. It is kind of their bread and butter. And so, to be honest, for years, for decades, I kind of underrated Bath & Body Works, which is probably a mistake and a little bit snobby. I do think Bath & Body Works is adjusting and is adapting to consumer preferences away from those categories while still doing them, if that makes any sense. So, which is always a great business move, is to always adapt with the consumer, right? This is not the kind of candle that I would bring home at any time in the year. And I looked at this and I just thought, if there was ever a candle that I absolutely hate, this has to be it, right? So I lifted the lid just nonchalantly, just kind of casually in passing, bracing myself, fully expecting to hate every minute of it. But it's a hate smell. We just need to kind of lean into our hate sometimes as we're walking through a Bath & Body Works store. And I was so surprised. This candle is special. It's special. And against my better judgment, I actually brought it home. Now, I did not immediately put it into my cart. I just was like, oh, that's almost, I like that, But then in my 4th, 5th, 6th turn around the store, thinking about what I wanted, and it was one of those buy online, pick up in store moments where I got a lot of things and then ended up, especially in that Mediterranean line, setting a lot of things to the side, or, oh gosh, early in the morning, not returning, but swapping. What's the name for it? Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. At any rate, for instance, I think there was the Citrus Grove candle. I replaced it with this one. So I had bought the Citrus Grove and I was like, you know what? I really like this one a lot better. So I went with this one. So anyway, the preamble over, this candle was such a surprise to me. And now that I have burned it, it is so fantastic. It has really hit the spot for me. And I don't know, maybe I'm losing my grip, but I almost feel like I could induct this into a summer Hall of Fame. For July, I am doing what I call the hard fruits, the hard fruity candles. These are the kinds of summer barbecue, kind of basic and cliched and ridiculously aggressive fruits that you would kind of expect at any time in the year, you would expect them in July, for instance. So I'm trying to lean into that, even though it's not like my category. It's not what I like live and die for. So I burned this one. I have been burning 2 Kringle candles, a peach one and a blueberry one. I've been burning the Aruba candle from Target/Yankee, the watermelon one. So I've got some fruit candles coming for you. Spoiler alert, this is the one to beat. It is the one to beat. What a fantastic candle. So the notes on this one are chilled rosé, sweet raspberries, and pink sugar. Cannot believe that. Yeah, I do think that maybe the notes and the branding and the name are a little bit misleading because none of those things are things that I want in a candle. Certainly not from a Bath & Body Works candle, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But this smells so much better than the marketing, than the name, and then the notes indicate. So to be perfectly honest, this is actually much closer to the raspberry note that you would find in like raspberry thumbprint, for instance. It's a deep, kind of almost a bassy, jammy note, deep, yeah? It's sitting lower than you would expect, certainly from a rosé or effervescent summertime fruit kind of note. And I'm so happy there is like basically no effervescence in this candle, let alone booziness, which is what is really being suggested and promised here with this like carbonated, apparently boozy fragrance, yeah? And as everybody said, it is very reminiscent, at least in theme, in genre, in category, to a candle that comes out all the time, which is Raspberry Mimosa, which does and has advertised itself as being a very effervescent cocktail, fruity kind of beverage. Kind of a champagne toast that's a little bit more fruity, right? I have never in my entire life been tempted to take home that Raspberry Mimosa. And I brought this home and I burned it and I burned it and I looked forward to it every night, and I love this candle. It does not have effervescence in it. It does not have booziness in it. It's got that deep, jammy raspberry thumbprint kind of fruit, raspberry fruit note. And then it has something else, and it's a nuance. It's a nuance. I think I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I actually think there might be a true rose note in this candle that's like a, you know, like a flower rose, right? And a little bit of musk, to be perfectly honest. Now, don't get me wrong, these are nuances, okay? So we're talking in the category of like the wine connoisseurs who are like drinking wine, they're like, I'm getting charcoal. And you're like, wait, what? Am I drinking charcoal? No, it doesn't taste like charcoal to you. We're talking like fine aspects of this fragrance that are very subtle. But honestly, this candle stands up to those kinds of smells, which automatically tells you that you've got a better candle than the usual Bath & Body Works tutti fruity kind of fragrance that is frankly superficial, that sits up high in the range, that's bright, that's bubbly, that's possibly also a body care, etc., etc. No shade if you like those fragrances. Honestly, the demographic of Bath & Body Works' core consumer base has been people who love those kinds of fragrances. And I don't think there will, I think there will always be that aspect of the consumer demographic. And I think there will always be places in Bath & Body Works' catalog for those kinds of fragrances, and perhaps for them even to be highlighted and foreground, no question. But this is not one of them. It's really not. Oh, it's so beautiful. And I do think there's a little bit of a floral note, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's rose and a little bit of musk. And it's just, it's so perfect with that jammy raspberryness. So when it says raspberry rosé, I actually think it's just rose without the French, yeah? I don't think it's a beverage. I think it's a rose and a raspberry, but mostly raspberry, So it doesn't have any crust notes like you would expect from like a raspberry thumbprint. And I think that's why I like it. And I think I'm also obsessed in it because it's not, I don't think it's a true gourmand. I do think there are aspects in the bottom of the candle that are not gourmand. Whether they're floral, whether they're musky, whatever it is. Oh, this is a gorgeous candle. It's not quite like Santiago Huckleberry from Voluspa. Like, it doesn't have so many overt bassy musk nuances or currant nuances or plum or those kinds of things that would kind of deepen and richen it further, maybe take it into more of a perfumey space, maybe make it a fall candle. It's a very light touch and keeps it very strongly in that like just unabashedly aggressive summer fruit kind of category. And I just love it. I love it. Yeah, it's a little bit too bright and a little bit too forward for it to be a fall fragrance. You know what I mean? So I love it in the summer. And honestly, I would be very happy to burn this every summer in July. I'm not kidding you. I loved it that much. The strength and throw and performance on it was fantastic. I burned this one all the way down to the wick clips, maybe some minimal sooting, but really not bad. And it was one of those very like standard Bath & Body Works candles in that you would light it up and within 10 or 15 minutes, it would be filling your space. Like, you don't have to wait. As with many of the really heavy soy formulas, you don't have to wait 3 hours for it to for the wax to get a very specific temperature so that then you start getting some sort of strength and throw. That's what I love about this Bath & Body Works ones. When you only have an hour to burn, when you only have 2 hours, whatever else it is, being able to light up a candle and within 15 minutes, it's very close to its particular ceiling, whatever that is. The ceiling for this candle in an open concept space was, I would say, at least a 7. At least a 7, and I would say between a 7 and an 8, to be perfectly honest. 7 felt about right for most of the candle, but like I said, there were moments, especially if you burned it deep and you burned it long, where it was pressing up into the 8 range. And for an open concept, that's really fantastic. I did not have to take it back to a more enclosed space. And frankly, I don't know if I would want to. I mean, this is such a aggressive, jammy, summer fruit kind of candle that you kind of do want your open concept smelling like the preponderance of your house, not your like intimate bedroom. You know what I mean? You want your kitchen to smell like this, but you want it to like fill an open concept kitchen space that goes into your living area as well. Like I said, I don't know that you would want your house, or I don't know that I would want my house being filled up with this at any other time in the year, but man, it just feels so right in the high summer. It really does. This was a fantastic candle. By the way, Raspberry Mimosa is on the floor now. They just brought it out in their first wave. I believe it's in the Core Collection packaging. And so I was able to smell them both because they're both on the floor. If you still have some of these from semi-annual, and many of you may not because we're definitely scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of semi-annual at this point, but you know, head back to your brick and mortar store. Right at the end, sometimes they'll bring out a forgotten box from the back, you know what I mean? And you've all of a sudden got like a treasure of something. So just be checking on it even late into semi-annual. So this was clearanced off in semi-annual. I had the opportunity to smell both of them in connection. And I even talked to a very well-informed store manager who smelled them with me. Because I said, a lot of people are saying this is a repackage of Raspberry Mimosa. And I handed him both raspberry, and he kind of gave me this face like, I don't think so. And I handed him Raspberry Mimosa, and he went over and smelled it, and he said, no. No, he said, this one is actually bolder and stronger and more jammy than the Raspberry Mimosa. And I agree with that. Like Raspberry Mimosa, at least the current iteration, smelling it on cold, it's kind of hitting at like a 5 or a 6. This one, smelling it on cold, hits at like an 8, right? So the jamminess and the loudness of the candle, there is a big discrepancy, number one. And it's surprising given that this was kind of like an inner summer release that kind of looked like it was being phoned in. The other thing that's different is the Raspberry Mimosa doesn't have as much raspberry in it as this one. I mean, this one is fully like 90% unabashed raspberry, whereas Raspberry Mimosa is kind of like a 60% raspberry, and then the rest of it is like a little bit of effervescence, and also weirdly kind of an amber perfuminess as well, which makes, when I smelled it, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I remember Raspberry Mimosa smelling like, and never being interested in taking it home. I don't need like a Tutti Frutti with an amber, cheap amber perfume at the same, like I just don't, no. It's a no for me, right? But the Raspberry Mimosa is much more similar to the Champagne Toast in terms of that profile, which is an effervescence, kind of a cheap booziness, and a cheap perfume. I'm sorry if that's your favorite candle. Raspberry Mimosa is basically like the sister with like some raspberry in it, you know? I think this is totally different, and I think Head & Shoulders a much superior candle. And this is one that was in the line too, Surf Shop, which actually looked very stunning once it was burned. This one looked not bad either once it was burned, because we found out that like this side of it is kind of luminary, like the light comes through it in a really nice way. But this one hit much harder than expected too. Again, it looks like a 5-year-old's candle that is probably gonna be really bad. And the notes indicate that it's just gonna be like a cheap men's cologne. Totally not. Fresh, bright, fruity, with some spruce underneath. Oh my gosh. And again, the strength and throw was above average. Greg from All About Candles, we consider ourselves to be like candle siblings because our scent preferences are very similar. So he used to comment on my channel like all the time, and I'm like, you're my candle brother. And he's like, you're my candle sister. Him and I are totally in agreement that these two candles just were unexpectedly successful this summer for Bath & Body Works, and kind of underhyped, kind of under talked about. You know what I mean? And it's a shame because both of them are fantastic. I honestly think this is Summer Hall of Fame worthy. I don't know if Surf Shop is, but it's awfully close. And like, I bought another one to burn next year because I think it's so fantastic. So go to your Bath & Body Works. I'm pretty sure that both of them are not going to be online anymore because they really did kind of clearance them out for semi-annual at this point. If they're randomly on the website, I will link them down below. But I think your best bet is to go to the store. And gosh, if you have a Bath & Body Works outlet store, that's probably your best bet as well at this point. But I would be happy to stock up on these at almost any price. Despite the packaging and despite the marketing and the notes on both of them, which were incredibly misleading, these are surprisingly sophisticated and nuanced candles while still remaining in that like bright, forward summer vibes kind of place, which I think is a really hard, it's a hard note to kind of capture, and a hard, like threading that needle between like being kind of cliched, kind of aggressive, a little bit too summer bold, etc., while also being nuanced and pleasant and almost sophisticated. That's like a really hard vibe to land correctly, and I think both of these candles have. Full marks for me, 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up, whatever. Definitely, if you purchase both of these, talk to me. Weren't they amazing? They like really were above average strength, throw, performance, and fragrances. And like I said, weirdly marketed. Both of these candles could be marketed in a myriad of different ways, especially Surf Shop. And I kind of hope that they are, or at least that they come back every year, because I think that they deserve to. I really do. And I think that they deserve to come out as they did in this collection along with Summer Boardwalk. I do. I think it's fantastic. And Bath & Body Works has a lot of lackluster summer candles that kind of make their way. And don't get me wrong, even a lackluster summer candle sometimes is just what you want, but these are not lackluster. And I'm so happy about that. It makes me happy. What can I say? I'll link information down below if I can, but man, really, really nice. And like I said, with the other fruit candles that I'm burning, they were really chasing raspberry rosé. I'm not really sure if they were quite as good as that raspberry rosé, but we'll see. And the reviews are coming. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks so much.